Why iPhone XS Max does not replace the iPad mini. That video is coming up right now. Let's go. Okay, so the first one is aspect ratio. The iPhone XS Max gives you a rather odd 19:9 aspect ratio. It's a little more narrow than, like a 16:9, but that's because we're trying to keep it compact but still give you a large display. But with that comes one thing that you don't get, and that's landscape mode. So if I put the iPhone XS Max to the side, nothing is happening here, and I really dislike this about this phone. Maybe they can fix this in the future, but it's not happening here for the XS Max. It's all portrait mode, and that's it. Now you might say, why do I care? I don't know why you wouldn't just use your phone in portrait. Everybody uses it in portrait. The thing is that at nighttime when you're in bed, you want to go through some apps, consume some media on your device. No landscape mode is kind of like, okay, that's not going to have a phone replace my tablet. Whereas with the iPad, you go in landscape mode. Now, most tablets are actually designed with landscape mode in mind. So if you look at a bunch of Windows tablets like the Surface line, if you put that thing in portrait, it just looks totally awkward. So does the Surface Go, for example. But the iPad looks great here in landscape and portrait mode, but just this alone right here makes this thing more productive than an iPhone. So that's the first reason. The aspect ratio at 4:3 gives you a much wider display and a lot more productive and more tablet-like at nighttime. So that iPhone cannot replace it here. Okay guys, so the next one is the app ecosystem. Now on the iPad, you do get the iPad app ecosystem. So if you do filters right here, you'll see that supports iPad only, iPhone only. So you get iPad specific apps on here. And what that means is that the application does have just a bigger, like more wide developed look to it. So let me go ahead and go to an application that does show this rather well. Let's go into applestore.com over here. Let's go to continue. And then we'll go to Apple Store over here on the iPhone. Let's hit don't allow and continue here. And you can see, look how much wider it is here on this iPad designed app. Now, yes, they've crammed it down to look almost the same there on the iPhone, but still the width of the iPad applications just look better than these more narrow applications on the iPhone. So this is a reason right here why an iPhone still cannot replace an iPad, is because the application ecosystem for iPad is just different. They have iPad specific applications for this device. Okay, so the next reason why the iPhone cannot replace the iPad mini is the dock. So we have 4 icons here on the dock. That's all you can basically do there for the iPhone. Over here on the iPad mini, a much larger iPad specific dock down here. Now that's important because if you're trying to hop in between applications, you can bring this dock up right here and go through different applications. It's something you can uniquely only do on the iPad, and this came in a later update. iPads used to not be able to do this, so now the iPad is a lot more productive with its little dock down here, something that makes it more powerful and easier to use in like a landscape mode. So if I bring files over here, we can go ahead and split things up and put it like so. So that's something that's really iPad specific and really a reason why a phone can still not replace this iPad. Okay, so the next reason why the iPhone does not replace the iPad mini is split screen multitasking. So I talked about it a little bit earlier, but you can see right here on the iPad, you can split 2 applications. And this is cool because such a small device in this portable compact iPad mini, and the ability to split it, move things off to the side. You can have much of your content on this side with this little skinny tray over here with your application on this side. And not only that, you can have multiple split screens going on. So I have files in the App Store open over here. Then I could come back and go to this split screen action right here. So the multitasking and productivity abilities of this freaking iPad right here is just much better than the iPhone, which we can't really do much of anymore over here. So really, if you're using the iPhone, you cannot say it replaces an iPad mini for this reason alone right here. Now, maybe Apple's going to bring split screen in the future that could further make the iPad or iPhone more productive, but for now, this is a huge advantage iPad. Next up is the much larger display. So 6.5 inches, yes, very big display. Many people might be saying, why, I don't need much more display than that, but still, you can see there's just no comparison. The iPad mini's display is significantly larger than that of an iPhone XS Max, 8 Plus, any iPhone there is out there, and significantly wider. So watching movies, doing just about anything is gonna feel much larger on an iPad mini. And mind you, an iPad mini is like less than half the cost of an iPhone. So you can actually get an iPad mini and like an iPhone 8 for cheaper than an iPhone XS Max, or about the same price point, have you be it. Or you can even get a used iPhone, maybe a couple years old, and then get an iPad mini for cheaper than a XS Max. So yes, the much larger display makes it better for reading books, watching movies, browsing the web, all that good stuff. iPad mini has an advantage there. Next up is the ability to have keyboard cases for this product. So if I go to photos here, I took a little photo or a screenshot of a keyboard case for the iPad mini. You can get these little keyboard cases that go on this thing, and that's something that just doesn't really exist too much, and if it does, it's just awkward on a phone over here, on the iPhone, for example. So the XS Max cannot replace it in this regard. Now, Apple doesn't make an official keyboard case for an iPad mini. That would be nice to see eventually. Maybe they'll do it when they redesign this thing, if they do. But for now, third-party manufacturers still make little keyboard cases for the iPad mini. I personally have a book folio on it right now. I will share where I got this one, link down below if you were wondering. It's a really nice little case. Nice texture, has a soft inside cover, and it does show the iPad mini off very nicely here. Feels like a little book, closes up nicely, but you can get a little keyboard case for this thing right here, and they could do stuff like that. So iPad mini definitely more productive again, because you can use an actual keyboard on the device. Okay, so the next one is Apple Pencil support. So I don't really like drawing on an iPhone because I don't want to draw with my finger. It just doesn't feel precise. It doesn't feel accurate here on this device. But with the iPad mini, specifically the 5, now gives you Apple Pencil support. Yes, it's the older generation, but just having this alone gives this more of a productive feel, and definitely great for students and stuff like that who are going to be, you know, taking notes in class. Also, artists will love this. At the same time, not having it on the iPhone gives it a huge disadvantage. Now, almost everything I said in this video applies specifically to the iPad mini in general, to most iPad minis, but this one right here applies specifically only to the 5. So you got to get the 5 to use the pencil here. It's going to be great for students to write notes. Homework's due at 8 p.m. Tuesday, for example. You can take notes on this thing, and that's excellent in class versus something like this where you probably can't even pull your phone out in the classroom. Okay guys, so the next one is the keyboard. So the iPhone has an amazing keyboard, but at the same time, it's much smaller. And also, if you go in landscape mode, the typing, while not a bad experience at all, it's still really small in comparison. The iPad mini with its larger display gives you a much bigger keyboard. And not only does it have an amazing keyboard here for the device, it actually has the ability to float this keyboard. So we can go ahead and float it around, move it around up to the top. You can dock it over here. Let's dock it. We can also go ahead and split it over here like so. You can split type here on the iPad. So I've always enjoyed the iPad keyboard because it's just really easy to type on really large keys on the iPad keyboard. So this alone, I think, gives an advantage to the iPad. Now, the iPhone has an excellent thumb typing experience, one hand thumb typing, stuff like that. It's a different experience, but at the same time, coming over here gives you a bigger keyboard for, I think, faster, more accurate typing because the keys are just substantially larger. Okay, so the next reason the iPhone XS Max does not replace the iPad mini 5 is the battery life. So the battery life for the iPad mini significantly longer. We have like 3 to 5 hours better runtime for me on this device, and this has like 3100, something like that on the XS Max. It's a little bit over 3000 milliamp hour, and over here we have something like over 5000 milliamps. So much longer battery life because it's a bigger cell. Also, we do have LCD technology, which substantially usually lasts longer than OLED technology devices over here. You could put the black screens that give you a little bit better battery life, but oftentimes you're going to be doing iMessage, more things, social media, stuff like that on the iPhone. It's going to keep you on that device, in effect draining it quicker than an iPad, whereas an iPad you're typically going to be just taking notes, maybe browsing the web, reading a book, and a lot of those things aren't really that intensive on the iPad, where the iPad really gets intensive if you start gaming on it. So if you start gaming, it gets really intensive there. Watching videos as well do not really drain much for the iPad. So if you're a media goer, iPad lasts longer than the iPhone pretty much all the way around. So that's it. I'm done here. I explained my reasons why the iPhone does not replace the iPad mini, or pretty much any iPad. A lot of this can apply to any iPads, to be quite honest and fair with you. What do you think? Do you think iPhones do replace iPads? Did your iPhone replace yours? If so, why? Why do you think it replaced it? If not, then go ahead and click the like button for me. If you're new here, consider subscribing for more. Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well, and peace.